Record Store Nation. How the hell are you guys? It is a delightful cold winter in Chicago. And actually, you know what? I can't complain too much because we've gotten literally one snowfall this winter. And so it has been awesome. There hasn't been anything like Arctic 20 below zero days either. So I cannot complain too much being in Chicago. It is my favorite city in the entire world. I do love Los Angeles and I do love New York. But this is home. And so, we sit around and bitch and moan about winter and construction and bad baseball teams and things like that. But I would not trade it for the world. I love Chicago. This is home, not going anywhere else. So, anyway, welcome to the record store, guys. This is the show. First off, oh God, I always seem to forget our opening house band. It's Jada Pinkett's Melon with our opening song to lead us into the episode. So, gotta say big shout out and big thanks to Jada Pinkett's Melon. Thank you so much, guys. That was such an awesome song, and we are always proud to have you as the band that leads us into these episodes. So, this is the record store. You know the deal. Grab an album at random off of the voluminous wall of CDs next to me here. And sometimes the whole premise of this started because I'm such an avid collector and I will get off on these tangents and buy every Alicia Keys album in one fell swoop, like 10 albums at one time. And, I'll listen to two or three of them and completely run out of time to listen to the other six or seven or whatever. And so there's so many albums in my collection that I had never listened to, or some that I listened to once or twice back in the day and never again. So the whole concept here is just literally grabbing something at random, never throwing anything back. The only time I've ever put something back is if I did a band like not too, very recently, and didn't want to bombard you with too many U2 albums in a row. Greatest hits, I'll throw those back too because I'm like, oh, that's kind of cheating. I don't have too many greatest hits albums. The only ones I have are like those scam albums where they'll add one new song or one outtake or B-side or something to make the true fan of the Cars or whoever buy that album because you have to be the completist that has that song too. So I don't have too many greatest hits albums, so I haven't thrown back too many of those. There's Muñeca making a cameo, as she is wont to do. Um, so I haven't thrown back too many greatest hits albums, but there it has happened. And then, of course, we do the whole Christmas gimmick in December, which, believe it or not, I can probably do again in 2024. Lo and behold, it's gonna happen. So anyway, but we're back on track. Thank you so much, you guys. There was so much positive feedback to the list of the top 10 albums of 2023 that we did in January. So thank you so much. Lists are created to generate controversy and generate disagreement or agreement in some cases. So if you thought I was out of my mind having a Miley Cyrus album in there, then so be it. But I did have a lot of really good positive feedback on that. So thank you guys so much. It's opinion. That's all it is. We all have them. Not going to make the analogy, the cliche analogy that's out there, but but anyway, it's just opinion. So whatever my favorite album of the year was, whether it's Mammoth 2 or if you never even heard of Mammoth, maybe that opened up somebody's eyes and ears to listening to something very cool and very new. And shout out to John McAdam. There is great music being created in 2023 and 2024 now that we're into it. So this is back on track in terms of the concept of the record store. It's one album. Again, really great downloads on that best of 2023 episode. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate that. So now we're back on track as far as like every month is going to be on the record store. It's going to be just pulling a random album and talking about that band and talking about that particular album. So the album that got pulled today is Lifehouse, and the name of the album is No Name Face, which is kind of an awkward name to have to say every time, but No Name Face is the name of the album. It's Lifehouse. To me, like an insanely underrated band. I've seen them about a half dozen times. I've seen them opening for other acts. I've seen them as the headliner, and it just never have been not entertained by these guys. Just amazing. There's been a couple different members. I think they've pretty much landed on the consistent three guys that are in the band now. Jason Wade is the main guy, the lead singer. and kind of the face, the no name face, if you will, of the band. Um, get it? That's the name of the album. No, anyway. So I've seen Lifehouse a handful of times. Been entertained every single time. I prefer them as the headliner because I want them to do the longer act or the longer set rather. They've had 7 studio albums. No Name Face was the very first one actually, and believe it or not, came out in the year 2000. So it's hard to believe 24 years ago, this album came out 24 years ago, and it definitely holds up. Some really amazing music on this album that we're going to talk about. So, sadly, it's been 9 years since their last album. So I do hope that they regroup and get back together. I don't know that there's any animosity or anything like that. Like I said, it had been something of a revolving door. The only original member that's still with them is Jason Wade, the singer. But the 2 other guys that have joined since then have been on the last few albums consistently. So, as far as I know, there's no angst, no animosity, no bitter breakup or anything like that. Just these guys are all pursuing different things right now, doing solo stuff, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully they get back together and do some more Lifehouse music soon. Um, they are described on Wikipedia as alternative, post grunge, pop rock. Um, I read those descriptions, and obviously, what you read online isn't always reality. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But those like descriptions of them didn't really click for me. I think of them myself. I think of them as more adult contemporary. I think of them as Goo Goo Dolls, basically. Pop rock was probably the closest description. I didn't get the grunge or post grunge. I didn't get the alternative from them. As a fan of theirs, and I've been with them, I jumped on that bandwagon probably halfway through the 7 albums, and then I went back and got those too, because that's what I do. So anyway, Lifehouse started as a garage band in LA. They started by the name of Bliss, Blyss. They made some connections, and they got signed by DreamWorks, the same DreamWorks that does movies. Um, Jason Wade said that they chose the name Lifehouse. They changed it from Bliss to Lifehouse because their music was commenting on all of their lives. And so I guess they felt that that was commentary on their lives was appropriate to name themselves Lifehouse. So anyway, so they had signed. No Name Face was their debut album, has sold 4 million copies. It somehow they got linked to Smallville, the television show Smallville, the whole Superman, Superboy, whatever show on the CW. And a lot of their songs got used. There was like whatever the connection was that they came up with. Maybe it's something through DreamWorks, but whatever that connection was served them so well because they had a lot of songs used on Smallville throughout the years of the episodes of that show. And then over the years, many of their songs have been used not only in TV shows but in movies. There's been a couple commercials too that have used the original versions of their songs. So just they really benefited from the connections originally. And I mean, the music is so good, and it totally makes sense that they would get a lot of airplay, whether it's on radio, FM radio, or just on these soundtracks. So that's how they really made their name, and they really got got out there and got the exposure was through the television shows that they were able to get their stuff on. So this album, No Name Face, had some mixed reviews, mostly positive from the critics. The music, one of the comments was the music itself matches Jason Wade's voice. Another one said the lyrics are very smart, and also the critics were initially on this first album, the critics were comparing them to Pearl Jam, to Creed, to Stone Temple Pilots. So as I'm reading this, I'm not seeing that. I don't see that. Like I said, I think of them as Goo Goo Dolls Jr. I think of them as adult contemporary. So I think of them more mainstream than to call them Pearl Jam or Creed. Or Creed's kind of mainstream. I guess that's probably the closest I would say of those 3 bands that critics compared them to would probably be Creed. But like I said, I view Lifehouse more as adult contemporary, and more like just like I said, mainstream sound to them. So on this album, No Name Face hit number 6 in the U.S., which is amazing for a debut album to hit number 6 on Billboard. So Hanging by a Moment, which is the opening track on the song, was named by Billboard the Song of the Year, which is another amazing achievement considering this is their debut album, you know? So, Hanging by a Moment, which interestingly, in a very rare situation, never hit number one on Billboard for the year as a single, but yet it was named by Billboard as the song of the year. So that's a rare thing that's happened a couple times before. I guess what that means is that it was just towards the top of the charts for a very, very long time in 2000 when it came out. Um, but anyway, this album, No Name Face, also hit number two in Denmark. So shout out to Denmark. Very cool. Hit number four in Canada and hit number seven in New Zealand. I don't know why I always feel like I have to quote New Zealand, rankings and charts, but I just because I'm like, are there even like cities in New Zealand? I don't know. So anyway, I guess there is rock radio in New Zealand, or at least there was in 2000. So very good on you, Lifehouse and No Name Face, placing so well on the New Zealand charts. So anyway, so this album that I pulled. Again, these are things that I have forgotten about because it's been sitting on my wall forever here. But the version of No Name Face that I have is actually a Japanese import. I'm sure that I got it because it had a bonus song on it. So I'm like, okay, yep, there's not going to be just another Lifehouse album in my collection. If I can have access to a Japanese version that has a bonus song, I'll be damned if I'm not getting that one. So I have this Japanese version of this album. It's in English. Don't fret. But anyway, so it does have a bonus song. The album is 59 minutes long, especially because it has that 13th track. It was a 12-track original CD, and it had the bonus song at the end that makes it 13. So the album package is also to my liking because it does have the lyrics. It also has the lyrics in Japanese, so very cool. You got that bonus too if you can speak, read Japanese. Um, has some pictures of the guys in the band, and the only complaint, and this is minor, the only complaint is the lyrics are like basically like straight across. It's like it's not broken down in paragraphs or stanzas like traditional. So it's like you're really kind of like trying to figure out when does the line end, and it was a little bit confusing, but by the end of the album you get the hang of it. So it's just the lyrics are all just kind of blah right there. And the lyrics are good, don't get me wrong, but they could have maybe laid it out like a little bit more easy to read. But anyway, it's a minor thing. The thank yous and the credits on there are the usual, the wife, the kids, Jesus, the whole nine yards, the record company, the people who made their guitars and things like that. So I didn't find anything really humorous in the thank yous this time. So anyway, let's get to the album. So it starts with Hanging by a Moment, which is their massive hit. How cool is that? That is not only it's on your debut album, but that's how you lead off this album is with Hanging by a Moment. So Billboard's Song of the Year. So the album version of it, I think, was slightly different from the radio version because it starts with this really cool bass line, I thought, that I just didn't really pick up on when I hear it on the radio all the time when it was in heavy rotation. So Hanging by a Moment, just a beautiful rocking love song. I think Jason Wade's voice is just so appealing. I can actually hear the Nirvana kind of sound and influence in this music, on this song. The more I listen to it and having that seed planted, and looking at the critics' comments on this album, having that seed planted in my head, now I can kind of hear it. It definitely did have kind of a Nirvana sound to it. So I think this song crosses over in the sense that it appeals to multiple fan bases. It's got a mellow sound, it's got a rocking sound, it's got a romantic sound. It's a chick rock song, if you want to call it that. Just like there's chick flicks, I think there's certain songs and certain bands, whether it's Jason Wade's looks or just the music. I think that their music appeals to women, just like Goo Goo Dolls appeals to women. Johnny Resnick appeals to women. I know seeing them live, I'll see women totally swooning over Jason Wade and swooning during this song and belting this song out, Hanging by a Moment, just belting it out. So I think Hanging by a Moment, just a tremendous opener on their debut album. And I think the whole concept of it being named Song of the Year that year is totally warranted. Just a fantastic song and a great way to start this album. So, all right, second song is called Sick Cycle Carousel. Starts kind of acoustic, starts kind of quiet, jumps right into a rocker not too far into the song. I'll flat out say I have no idea what this is about. What it seems to be about to me is a lament about life moving so fast and you need to stop and smell the roses. Really vague song, I thought. Good song, but really vague in terms of the lyrics. And I did see in an interview that Jason Wade admitted, who writes most all the music, Jason Wade admitted that this song in particular, this song is vague and it's vague on purpose. He likes writing things, and there's a couple other songs on this album that are like this too. He likes writing things that leave a lot up to the imagination of the listener and open for interpretation, so that you can try to figure out. And I always think about the briefcase scene. I think it is in Pulp Fiction, when they don't know, they never show you what's in the briefcase, the shining briefcase that they open up and look at, and you never know what it is in that briefcase, so you're always open to interpretation on that film. So I think of this song in that same vein, in the sense that he wants you to wonder what it's about. So that was my interpretation: is life moving so fast, stop and smell the roses. Could be totally wrong. Who knows? Anyway, all right. Third song is a song called Unknown. It's a very drum-driven song, very melodic. I didn't pick up any grunge sound here, or post-grunge, like the critics said. Again, another vague song. Not very clear what it's about. I thought "Hanging by a Moment" as your opener is very clearly a love song. It was very clear what it was about. But here's another one, the third song, "Unknown," that is also very unclear and very kind of cloudy. I think the critics must have felt very smart in trying to interpret the lyrics here. I think and that's why they said, the lyrics of Jason Wade are very smart. So I think they felt they were smart because they figured it out, maybe. So I think that "Unknown" is a love song. It could be more of an "I'm afraid of the unknown" theme. I'm not really sure. But I know his voice sounds good. I know it's a very melodic song that I really enjoyed. So another good song, "Unknown," in the third spot. So, all right, fourth song is called "Somebody Else's Song." Very crisp drums, rather. I can start to see, again, kind of those grunge, post-grunge comments when I listen to "Somebody Else's Song," because of the crisp sharpness of the drums on this one. It's some really haunting guitar in this song. Just a very grandiose sound on this song. I really enjoyed it. There are no horns in the credits. There's no horns listed, but it sounds like horns here, so it's probably some synthesizer. It actually has, "Somebody Else's Song" actually has this kind of Beatlesy vibe to it, like from a Magical Mystery Tour era of the Beatles, with the horn sound, at least in the background. It's a really good song, very complex music, just like some of the other stuff. It seems like this one is about Jason Wade being tired of trying to be what they want him to be, and he wants to strike out on his own. And he's tired of having somebody else's song. He wants to do his own music. He wants to do his own thing. That's what I'm interpreting. Again, the vagueness of their lyrics is just really interesting and really makes you think. It's not just so open and shut case on many of these songs, like "Hanging by a Thread," or I'm sorry, "Hanging by a Moment" is a very open and shut. You know what it's about. Whereas so far the other songs after that, not so much. So, all right, fifth song is called "Trying." Super soft acoustic start to the song. Muñeca not enjoying this song. The message on "Trying" is that life is a challenge every day. We just try to do the best that we can. That seems to be the message. I thought I heard mandolin on this song. Could be, but again, not really in the credits, so it could be some keyboards, maybe a different type of guitar that sounds like a mandolin. So the music's like slowly starts to increase after a very quiet start. The other instruments start coming in after a real quiet start. "Trying" is a very melodic song. I got to admit, I do kind of hear a Stone Temple Pilots sound here, so I'm starting to understand what the critics were talking about. So I think that Lifehouse changed quite a bit over the years, but I'm starting to understand the comments that the critics made after this debut album. If those comments that I'm reading now were in reference to this album, and that's all that the critics knew of these guys was this album, I'm starting to hear what they're talking about in terms of like sounding like STP and sounding like Creed and Pearl Jam and so on. And the post-grunge comment, I'm starting to hear it. And this song is one of those that kind of exemplifies it. So Another good song. So we are at the halfway point of the album. We're going to flip the side. We're going to pay some bills. And we will be back with side 2 of Lifehouse, No Name Face on the record store. Stay with us, guys. We'll be right back.